Let me be clear. Donald Trump just launched airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Not with any congressional approval, not with any real plan, just another ego-driven decision from a man who treats war like it's a reality show ratings boost. And I don't want to hear anyone say, but he didn't declare war. That's semantics. When you bomb another country's nuclear sites, that is an act of war, full stop. Do you guys understand what this could unleash? Iran is already vowing retaliation. The region is a powder keg. U.S. troops are stationed all over the Middle East. Those are real lives now that are in the line of fire. We're talking escalation, more airstrikes, potential terrorist reprisals, oil price spikes, possible cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure. Guys, this isn't just some decisive action. This is reckless. And for what? To look tough? To deflect from a failing economy or a court case or whatever scandal of the week it is? We've already seen this movie before. Bush in Iraq. Lies about weapons of mass destruction, endless war, thousands of American lives lost, trillions of dollars wasted, veterans with PTSD, families shattered. And now Trump is wanting to run it back? This isn't leadership. This is a dangerous man lighting matches next to a gas leak because he wants to feel powerful again. And I don't care if you are left, right, or somewhere in the middle. Nobody should be cheering this on. This is the kind of decision that changes the world, and it's not for the better.
Family, President Donald Trump is proving to Americans each and every day that he was not the best choice for the president in the just concluded 2024 elections. It's been barely 7 months, and the decisions that Donald Trump is making are very reckless. Attacking Iran's nuclear facilities without any approval, from the government of the United States of America is very reckless. And it is just an act of dictatorship, It's an act of dictatorship. He does not consult, he does not follow the law, he does things the way he wants. And this could bring a lot of problems to America. That is actually an act of war, Iran could retaliate. There are a lot of U.S. troops in the Middle East. Imagine the risk that Donald Trump has put all those troops in the Middle East, the American troops in the Middle East. Imagine the risk they are in right now. There could be airstrikes in the U.S. anytime. They could also choose to just keep quiet, and the U.S. may in turn get a lot of price hikes, when it comes to oil prices. The Middle East, is the main suppliers of oil. There could be many disadvantages with Trump's decision, to strike the nuclear facilities in Iran. So family, I want you to see the reaction of Americans. Americans are fed up with Donald Trump making wrong choices each and every day. I want you to hear Americans speak. Once the series of videos are done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch this together, family.
The United States of America is officially a part of a war that they have no business being a part of. Officially a part of a war that they have no business being a part of. This is literally the Bush administration all over again with Iraq. So the colonizing country that ironically went through their own version of a genocide at the hands of the Nazis has successfully convinced Trump to go and bomb Iran at 3 nuclear sites, officially placing the United States in a war that they have no business being a part of. I want to make this very clear. This is not in the name of religion, because the United States is a Christian country. See, this colonizing country is currently occupying land in the Middle East that belongs to another country. And because of its occupation of that land, the United States has access via this colonizing country and is the only country in the Middle East that is allowing the United States to have access to its natural resources. See, most Middle Eastern countries go out of their way to make sure that the United States has no access to their natural resources. Yet this colonizing country is the only country that allows it to have access. Do you see where I'm going with this? As this particular country continues to colonize and occupy and expand throughout the Middle East, guess what that means for the United States? More access to the natural resources. Again, this has nothing to do with the United States wanting to help protect another country's religion or help protect another country. The United States could care less. It's all about access. It's all about what the United States can get, okay? This colonizing country is currently responsible for killing tens to 100,000s of Palestinian people. That doesn't sound like a country that needs protection, that needs help. In fact, that sounds like a country that has more than enough resources for them to be able to commit the damage that they've committed, and they have enough power to get away with it, which they've done. Also, slight correction, I need to stop saying that this colonizing country is allowing the United States to have access to their natural resources, when in fact, it's the land that they're occupying that they're allowing the United States to have access to the natural resources. These natural resources belong to the Palestinians. See, I need my fellow Americans and whomever else might be watching this from whatever country you might be from to understand how deeply embedded the United States and this colonizing country are in together, okay? I don't know if you knew this, but this colonizing country also had a hand in helping take TikTok offline. See, this colonizing country has managed to make it so that if you boycott them, you will actually face legal action in the United States. What other country has that power? See, this colonizing country has also confirmed that it had 94% of posts removed from social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok that shows what they're actually doing to other countries. Yes. Reason being is these posts have finally now exposed exactly how bad this colonizing country is. See, we had no idea how bad they were until last year. We had no clue. We had no clue that they were killing innocent civilians. And why would they want us to know that they're committing genocide when their history is built off of them receiving sympathy and victimizing themselves off of their own genocide? Getting back to the point though, so long as this country is continuing to occupy land in the Middle East, the United States has direct access to the natural resources. And that's why they're helping this colonizing country. The goal is to help them finish occupying the land that they're trying to occupy from the Palestinians and for them to then expand throughout the Middle East. That's the fucking plan. As they continue to expand throughout the Middle East, the United States will have more access. The same exact access that they were being denied. Why? Because other Middle Eastern countries were not allowing the United States to have access like that. And before you think this has nothing to do with you, understand that Trump is now partnering up with a Zionist-owned company who has plans of creating a database that will be monitoring every single American to make sure that these Americans are not saying anything that goes against or is exposing this colonizing country. Why? The plan is to continue to make this colonizing country look the way that it's always looked. We can't look at them as this big bad wolf. We have to look at them as the fucking victim. Otherwise, they won't be able to successfully occupy other land in the Middle East. They need to be able to win this war right now. So now your rights violated, your data breached. And if we allow this colonizing country to successfully, through the partnership of the United States, to occupy the land that rightfully belongs to the Palestinians, we are cooked. Us Americans are cooked. And before I end this video, I'm going to leave you with this little piece of history that you can actually go and look up yourself. You see what's underlined. You see what's circled. You see that year, 1899, that was 125 years ago. This is a plan that had been set. And been put into motion. And if it actually comes to fruition, if they actually succeed, we are cooked.
The United States bombed Iran, and now everyone's asking, what happens next? Well, there's a couple of options on the table for the Iranians, and I think it's important that we go through them and talk about what each one would kind of entail. One thing that the Iranian government could do is nothing. Right? That is something that is very much on the table. The Iranian government could look at what's happening, say this is well beyond our general risk threshold, like what we're willing to tolerate, and use this as a sort of off-ramp to come back to the negotiating table with the U.S. and possibly start a ceasefire process with the Israelis. In my opinion, that is an incredibly unlikely option. For one, because it kind of goes against everything the Iranian government has been saying in regards to what would happen if the United States were to get itself directly involved in strikes on Iranian soil, but also because it kind of sets a bad precedent for the Iranian government that the United States can get away with bombing its own sovereign territory without any sort of consequence. But it's also unlikely because they've actually already done something. And that brings us to option two. The Iranians could continue and possibly intensify their strikes against the Israelis. To clarify, they're already doing this, right? The Iranians launched another missile barrage at the Israelis after U.S. strikes last night. And that, in my opinion, is likely to continue because the Iranians have been proving that they're able to hit Israeli facilities across occupied Palestine, and there's really no incentive for them to stop doing this, especially as the U.S. continues intensifying its operations functionally in defense of the colony. Now, option three is when we start getting into the kind of more interesting escalatory actions that the Iranian government could take, which is they could close the Strait of Hormuz. This one isn't just me spitballing. This is something that Iranian officials have been pretty clear that they would consider if the U.S. officially and operationally entered the war on the side of the Israelis. That would be a really big problem for the international economy at large, given that the strait handles about 26% of global oil trade, as well as like a fifth of liquid natural gas transport. It is one of the most important maritime passages in the world, and it just so happens to be right off the coast of Iran. Now, a full blockage of the Strait of Hormuz might be genuinely difficult, right? The Iranians could mine it, they could harass vessels that are going through it, but ultimately the U.S. and other forces would likely try to intervene and reopen maritime trade in the area. At that point, it's kind of on the Iranians to gauge like how much they're willing to do to put at risk not just U.S. vessels, but also what are likely going to be other European vessels from like the U.K. and France, right? Are they willing to continually escalate what is quickly becoming a widespread regional conflict, or will they at some point kind of take their foot off the gas? That being said, as we saw during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the Iranians don't have to fully close the strait or like completely blockade it for the effects they want to take root, right? In the 1980s, right, they targeted oil tankers and loading facilities, and they actually even used speedboats to harass tankers, right, which didn't fully block the strait but caused a sharp increase in shipping insurance premiums and delayed maritime traffic. And as we're seeing with Yemen's naval blockade of the Israelis, even if they're not able to maintain a full blockade, they can still do a lot of harm because ultimately these shipping vessels are reliant on low premiums for their insurance related to shipping. And a lot of the companies aren't going to be willing to send vessels into areas that they're considering like borderline or outright war zones because it puts all of their cargo at risk. So the Iranians could, even if they don't fully block the strait, cause a lot of havoc in international markets. Now, the likelihood of this isn't low, right? Because recent reporting from Iranian media has indicated that the Iranian parliament has already approved the closure of the strait, right? They're just waiting on leadership to approve the action. That being said, I'm unsure if they'll actually pull the trigger on that because, one, it would hurt the interests of other superpowers like China that are actually more friendly towards the Iranian government, but it would also functionally stop the Iranians from being able to effectively export their own oil. But again, not outside the realm of possibilities. And that brings us to option 4, which is the big one. Option 4 is doing what they have indicated they would do again if the United States entered the war on the side of the Israelis, which is target U.S. military facilities across the Middle East. People, I think, forget that when you are facing off against Iran, you are not necessarily just facing off against Iran. You have Hezbollah in Lebanon, Kateb Hezbollah in Iraq, Ansarullah in Yemen, and countless other forces that are allied with the Iranians or share some interest with them who would possibly be willing to engage in offensive strikes against U.S. military bases. And now that the United States has functionally entered a war on behalf of the Israelis against Iran, their strikes would not only be, in my opinion, considered defensive, but ultimately justified. Now, they could do that. I think the probability of that kind of widespread regional activity is fairly low because to me, this seems more like an option of last resort, like we're pulling this trigger because we have to sort of escalation. And I think also it would strain the resources and capabilities of a lot of regional partners that could be very important against ongoing conflict with the Israelis moving into the future. Not out of the realm of possibility, though, because again, the United States decided not to heed the warnings of the Iranians and their allies and instead jumped headfirst into a conflict between the Iranians and the Israelis that the Israelis started. Those are kind of the options on the table, in my opinion. That being said, we could also see some combination of them. Like, for example, the Iranians could start harassing shipping in the Hormuz Strait and simultaneously allow, like, Kateb Hezbollah in Iraq to start launching rockets at U.S. military bases within the country without targeting a lot of the wider military infrastructure. And they could do something completely different, like, I don't know, attack Saudi oil infrastructure. That would be interesting. But yeah, let me know what y'all think, because I want to hear your opinions too. Ultimately, I'm just some guy. But this is all just something very much worth thinking about, I think. As always, salamu alaikum, and have a great day.
America has just bombed Iran. It has been confirmed. It is Saturday night, and America has bombed Iran. Why will these men stop starting wars to kill the young? And please do not tell me it's about liberating Iran. Please do not tell me that. These men, these adult, old men keep pushing the youth to death. All of it. All of these old men. When will it stop? All of these wars are started by men who just don't care about the lives of other people. Power hungry, money hungry. Another war. Another war in the Middle East. And it is not about liberating Iran, just like it wasn't about weapons of mass destruction. Donald Trump doesn't care about the Iranian people. He probably doesn't even view them as people. He doesn't view anyone as people except unless they look like him. Another war, Saturday night. When are we gonna wake up?
Sitting here, snuggling my chicken, and scrolling through TikTok, just found out the United States bombed fucking Iran. I'm so fucking over this. I'm so over this. I'm 40 years old. I'm a millennial. I have lived through the best of days, a wonderful childhood, right? And then the shit just keeps piling on. Like, it just keeps fucking piling on. I remember Columbine like it happened fucking yesterday. I remember 9/11 happening like it was yesterday. I live right on the bay. I literally watched those fucking towers burn from my yard. We were told that Iraq had nuclear weapons, where they were so close to getting them, and that was a fucking lie. We were told that if we just went to college and worked hard and did the shit that we were supposed to do, that, you know, we would have this fucking American dream, white picket fence life. And instead we've gone through multiple recessions and housing market crashes, and nobody could get a fucking job out of college. We're drowning in student debt. We spent 20 fucking years in a war for fucking oil. We've lived through a global pandemic. Inflation is so high that people can't afford groceries. People are struggling to keep the lights on in their house and to feed their kids. We were just fucking lied to. And now all we want is fucking clean water, food that doesn't poison us and make us chronically ill. We want to have time to enjoy our life instead of working it away and missing our kids' childhoods. We just want a chance to live. We just want a chance to live. I just want a chance to live my life without some fucking breaking news, earth-shattering, unprecedented times bullshit. I just want to live and sit in the yard with my chickens and watch my kids grow up and be able to feed them and throw them a birthday party and not have to worry about everything, whether they're gonna have clean air to breathe by the time they're adults. New Jersey is like the fucking epicenter of climate change. We just had a tornado warning 2 days ago. A couple months ago, we had a tornado warning. Like last year or the year before, we had an actual tornado touch down. Wildfires. Like, I have grown up on this same street. I've been on the same street for roughly 30 of my 40 years. Like, shit wasn't this way 30 years ago. What the fuck is happening? Get me off this timeline. I don't want to be in a war. We don't have money to give everybody health care or to fucking pay for kids' lunches at school. But we have money to go get into another fucking war? Why? Why are we getting in this war? What the fuck? I'm pissed. I'm so fucking over this shit. I'm so over this place. You know, growing up, we heard about how America was the best. It was the best. We have the most freedoms in this country. We're always on the right side of history. We're always the good guys. Everybody wants to come here because everybody's jealous about America. Fuck that. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of other places where their government actually gives a flying fuck about them. I'm jealous about other places where they know that if they're sending their kids to school that they're going to come home. I'm jealous that other people don't go fucking bankrupt if they get sick or in an accident. This place is bullshit. We were fed bullshit our whole lives. It's like, when is enough enough?
You want to know the saddest thing about this whole Trump bombing Iran thing? It's not even that he just kicked off World War III by joining Israel's war on Iran, or that places like Pakistan, Yemen, and Russia have already said that they are going to retaliate as well against the United States. So the guy who claimed, no new wars and no wars. Look, Kamala Harris is going to send your kids to war, but Trump is for peace. Yet he started a war not even 6 months after he got into office, which Kamala Harris, by the way, said he was going to do. The saddest part is that he basically missed. Because even though he said those 3 sites that the US attacked were completely obliterated and it was a success, Iran said that they evacuated those places a long time ago, and all material was moved out of the area so as to not cause harmful radiation to the people around it. And even military experts are stating that the bombs that were used were not capable of penetrating through those Iranian sites, which means that we may have damaged some of that stuff, but it was not obliterated. So basically, because of his weak, fragile ego, and his need for attention, and his sociopathy, Trump just kicked off World War III for everyone basically against the United States to basically lightly bomb some already evacuated sites. Again, fucking embarrassing. And now, even though these MAGA cultists have been saying for years that Joe Biden was going to kick off World War III and that Trump was a peaceful president, now that their guy is starting a world war, they don't care and they're just still making fun of everybody. They're like, oh, you don't like World War? Oh, cry some more. Which really just shows that they are not going to care until it happens to them personally. They are praising the fact that he is starting a war with half the world. This is like that Austin Powers moment, remember, where that guard is standing there screaming even though the steamroller coming at him is like 30 feet away? But it's the reverse of that. We've been trying to tell them for years that Donald Trump is an imminent danger that is coming toward them, and they're pretending that danger's not even there, and they're laughing at that steamroller. But until that steamroller hits them, figuratively, in some way, whether they or their kids get drafted to go fight over in Iran, or they have bombs falling on their house, or Trump puts their small trailer park under martial law, they are physically not going to care. Because all of these horrible things are happening to other people that are not them, and it's owning the libs and making them mad. So to them it must be a great thing, because they live their entire lives fueled solely by hate. It's the only thing they live for. And now, after what Trump did yesterday, they're going to see just how quickly this shit is going to hit home, and they're going to start caring. And that's when I'm not even going to give them a fucking tissue.
Do you even know what they do to women over there in Iran? Do you even know what they do to gay people in Iran? What does that have to do with anything, man? You're talking like a real colonizer. You're talking like a real colonizer. Like, I don't like the way they do things over there. We should go over there and teach them the Western way. That is colonization. Y'all are a whole bunch of colonizers. The amount of people I'm watching on my phone, trying to justify what Donald Trump did over there. Like, oh yeah, we had to do that. Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Sir. You trying to tell me that they went over there and they dropped 30,000 pounds of kaboom on a nuclear facility and nothing happened? Nothing exploded? Nothing exploded at a larger scale. Nothing. 30,000 pounds of kaboom, and that nuclear whatever bomb that's just there did not go off. The more and more I'm following this incident, the more and more I'm understanding how Donald Trump became president of the United States of America. Every other video on my page is an American talking about how they're proud of Donald Trump for doing what he did, how they like what Donald Trump is doing, how it was necessary to go over there and kaboom Iran. Bro, Iran is on the other side of the planet, man. Why do you care? Why do you care? Yo, I just came to the conclusion that Americans really just love war. Y'all just love war. You love destruction. You love to see other people be destroyed. That's what you like. Y'all remember that one girl that came online and said that all Americans are colonizers and everybody got mad? She was not wrong though. She was not wrong.
Family, for Donald Trump to make such ruthless decisions without consulting the necessary sources, you notice that there is a hidden, agenda that he has. There are benefits that probably he's going to get. I think there is something he will get from this, from maybe Israel. Trump wants dominance. He wants power, and he does not want to know what it will take for him to have all that. He just makes drastic decisions, reckless decisions each and every day. The US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities by President Donald Trump, who authorized bombings of 3 nuclear facilities on June 21st are aimed at disabling what the administration describes as Iran's advancing nuclear capabilities. Here is why the decision was made. You know, this is according to sources outside there. To stop Iran's nuclear breakout, the US joined Israel's recent strikes to significantly delay or destroy Iran's uranium enrichment sites, particularly in Fordo, which are deeply buried and hard to reach. Then he wanted to shift from diplomacy to pressure. Trump previously tried extending talks to impose maximum pressure sanctions, but concluded Iran wasn't negotiating, prompting the military strike. Then he also wanted to, he also striked because of the limited strike strategy. Adhering to advice from some administration officials, Trump opted for a one-off strike focused solely on nuclear facilities, not on regime change or a war with Iran. Family, let nobody lie to us that that was not prompting war with Iran. You know, and destroying the nuclear facilities is just but war. You know, there's no need for these people to lie to us. And he's putting American troops that are in the Middle East in a lot of risk. He's putting America, in a lot of risk. He's reminding Americans in the tenure of Bush, with his fight with Iraq. He wants to bring America back to those positions. And there is a lot of risks that are coming with this. There is potential for regional escalation. Iran has already launched retaliatory missiles at Israel and warned of further responses. Some analysts fear expanding conflict. Do you know what Trump has done for Israel right now? He's making it even worse for them. He came in to help, but immediately he did what he did on the 21st. Iran retaliated, to Israel, and that would bring problems, more and more problems. There is a lot of diplomatic backlash. Congress, allied nations, and major international figures like the UN Secretary General have expressed deep concern over the legality, proper authorization, and possible unintended consequences. Who gave Trump, the permission to do that? There's deep concern over the legality of what he did. There could be dire consequences. People could actually vote, for Trump to be removed from office. Because now who gave him permission to do that? He's abusing his power, for the lack of a better word. Then Iran stance. Tehran condemned the strikes as a violation of international law and insists it will retaliate, even as they claim no radiation leaked and no casualties occurred. Family, what are the next steps? What should Americans expect? What are the dire consequences of what President Donald Trump has done? Iran's retaliation trajectory. Will Tehran target the US forces close to the strait or hit the US allies? We've also seen the US allies being heated. We've seen what has happened immediately. Trump ordered for what has already been done. We saw Israel bleeding more and more. Family, Donald Trump has been making wrong decisions, and I really pray for America, because Donald Trump is in the verge of making America fall each and every day. Guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the decision of Donald Trump. Kindly like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users. I'd also request that you all do consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you guys, and see you all in our next episode. Goodbye for now.